So today is September 24th, 2013, and it is National Voter Registration Day. And we're here today as several civic engagement groups that work statewide, fixing the broken policy, broken issues that are happening in the state, and we work across a multitude of issues. But we're here today collaborative to say how important it is to register to vote, to come out and get engaged, to understand what the politicians are doing when they're making decisions, and to hold the politicians accountable. So speaking here today is our Representative Virgil Fludd to speak of the importance of voting in state elections. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Virgil Fludd, and I can stand before you today because some very brave people demanded that everybody be given a chance to participate equally in the political process. It began in 1870 with the passage of the 15th Amendment, which gave black men the right to vote. And it continued with the Civil Rights era and the Voting Rights Act. And the political landscape in this country has changed dramatically. So today, there are over 600 black and Latino elected officials across the state of Georgia. And in 2012, black voter participation rate was higher than any other minority group in this country. And in fact, it was higher than any other, than whites for the first time in the history of the country. So even with all the voter suppression tactics, people were determined to get out and vote. And the demographics of the state has changed. So what did the state look like in 1970? 76% of the electorate was white, 26% was black, and less than 0.2% was Hispanic. Today, 60% of the electorate is white, 30% black, and nearly 2% Hispanic. So even with the voter suppression tactics, we know that the demographics are shifting dramatically. So the people who tried to implement those tactics last year, they see the same stats as I do. They're not going to stop. They know that the black population is growing. They know that the Hispanic population is growing. They know that young people and women are growing in this state too. So they're not going to stop. In fact, I believe they're going to get even more creative in terms of ways to try to find ways to suppress some people from voting. So we have to be smarter. We can't just rail against voter ID laws. We've got to make sure that everybody is registered and has whatever documentation is required to be able to vote. In fact, we need to do what people in North Carolina and Virginia did, which is to say to focus first on local elections and then move to legislative and statewide races. And that's exactly why I'm here today, to talk about the importance of registering people to vote in local elections like the ones we've got coming up in November. Now, we've got a little bit of a challenge, and that is because only 63% of the black men in Georgia who are eligible are registered to vote, compared to 76% of black women and 75% of white women. Now, of those registered to vote, 70% of black men actually voted in the last general election, compared to 80% of black women and 78% of white women. The risk is too great and the road is too long to give up the fight, to give up now. We've come a long way, but the fight isn't over. We have to make sure that everybody is registered and even more people get out to vote. And it is my duty as a black man to reach out to every other black man, young and old, to help them find a way to get registered to vote. A lot of people fought and died for the right of political and civil opportunities. Every vote counts, and a few more votes in local elections can make a big difference, particularly in mayoral and council races. So we want to encourage everybody to get out and vote. And for those who are already registered, we want to encourage them to talk to their husbands, their boyfriends, their cousins, their sons, their grandsons, their nephews, their cousins, their friends. This is important. This is why we're here. We want to get everybody registered to vote and to participate in the political process. This is important. It matters. Every vote counts. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Fludd, again stressing the importance of raising voices of the unheard. I am the program director, Amanda Hill Atkinson, with Georgia WAND. That's Georgia Women's Actions for New Directions. And now I'd like to call on Delane Adams, who's with the Georgia AFL-CIO, Communications Director and Campaign Manager.
Amanda, thank you. And also I want to thank Georgia Wand and the League of Women Voters and all the other groups who brought this together so we can celebrate on this day that is so important for so many. This is just not a day to engage people, to have them register and this be the only day. We need to take this day and make sure that people know the issues, understand the issues, make sure that they can be active in the process. And this is all about giving people a voice. I've been involved in voter registration since 1992, and I realized the importance of voter registration. It's not just about registering a voter, but it's also making sure that voter stays active in the process. It's making sure that their voice is heard. The one thing about voter registration is that it puts everybody on equal footing. And National Voter Registration Day, this is the day that we need to make sure that everybody from the rural mountains of Georgia all the way to the metro Atlanta area know that this is the time to register to vote and make your voice be heard. Thank you.
I'd like to bring up Becky Rafter, the Executive Director of Georgia Wand.
Good morning. I'm Becky Rafter, Executive Director of Georgia Women's Action for New Directions, Georgia Wand, and I'm representing our We Count campaign. It's an exhilarating day to be a voter in Georgia. Why? Because despite setbacks to being able to vote in Georgia, like precincts closing across the state, voter ID requirements, and people being turned away at the polls, despite these setbacks, we know that our votes matter. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many efforts to keep us from the polls. If our votes supported their bottom lines, they'd be handing out voter rights on every street corner. But our voting rights and our votes are in place to protect our lives and our community's best interests. And so we have to stand strong in the face of voter disenfranchisement and celebrate our hard-fought right to vote. And it's a great day when you know that your voice is heard and considered in matters of the state and community. For example, look at Syria. The American people spoke up against war on Syria, and the people's voices overcame the militaristic penchant towards responding to world crises with imminent violence. Our voices matter. It's an exciting time to recommit to the democratic process because over half, I'm talking 54% of the American electorate is made up of our kinfolk. I'm talking about unmarried women, including white women and working class women, Black, Latino, Indigenous, and Native peoples, Asian American and Pacific Islanders, people of South Asian and Middle Eastern descent, and young people who are leading the way and changing the face of politics as we know it. And we have a young person speaking today. The new American majority is building alliances across race and class, age, and gender. And you can see from this press conference and from the work that we're doing today in honor of this special day how true this is. We are democratizing democracy. Democracy is not just for high-level bureaucrats in the Beltway or for our leaders under the Gold Dome and in city halls across the state. Democracy starts and ends with the people, especially with the people in the South, whose particular experiences inform our needs. Needs such as health care, community economic development, jobs, healthy foods for our families, environments that are safe and clean to live in, peaceful solutions to global crises, having our children safe from being bullied in school, the right for all people to be together and to have benefits of marriage. These are all issues that we care about and that our new American majority also cares about. Who you put into office determines the outcome of how you live. They make the laws. That is our democracy. But they're not going to sell us voting like they sell us cheeseburgers and iPhone apps. We have to go looking for it. We have to demand it. It's the right thing to do, even though it's not always the easiest thing to do. That's why we have many individuals and organizations like these here today and many across the state who are here to help people find how to vote and how to get involved politically. I just want to end by saying that elections are won oftentimes by a handful of votes. Presidential elections have been won by one vote. Thank you, and I'm excited to be engaged in this process with my fellow Georgia residents.
Thank you, Becky. I'd like to bring up Helen Butler with the Coalition for the People's Agenda.
Good morning. I'm Helen Butler, Executive Director of the Coalition for the People's Agenda, a consortium of groups convened by the Honorable Dr. Joseph Eccles Lowry. And today, while we are celebrating the National Voter Registration Day, we're here to say registration occurs 365 days a year. We're here to protect that right to vote. It's very important that we have our say in who represents us and what kind of government we have. We're here to say that your vote is your power to determine what goes in your community, what utilities you pay, what health care you get, whatever it may be of concern to you, whether it's education, whether it's the criminal justice system, it begins with the vote. And we're here to stand with all of these groups today to say that we're focusing on voter registration today, but it is a 365-day activity. So you're welcome to register to vote. And anytime anyone has a problem with registering to vote or can't get that photo ID that you need, please see any of us, because we're here to ensure that you have that right to vote and that no one takes it away from you. Whether you do it in absentee ballot or whether you do it in person, we're saying stand up for your right. If we were so concerned about stand your ground laws, well, you can make that difference by beginning with the vote. Yes. Registering to vote will help to overcome those laws, and thus we can stand our ground.
Thank you, Helen.
Yes.
I'd like to call Elizabeth Poythress, President of the League of Women Voters of Georgia.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today and be represented with all of these fantastic organizations. We're here today because this is National Voter Registration Day. It's actually National Voter Registration Month. But let me just tell you that last year on National Voter Registration Day, there were over 300,000 people that were registered to vote. We can beat that. We can beat that today. Yeah. We're going to. And we've got places set up throughout the city, at Kroger stores, at MARTA stations, at libraries. You can find a place to register to vote. And I want to give you just a couple of facts, because everything that has been said I have in my notes. And I don't want to repeat them. But I do want to say a couple of extra things. October the 7th is the last day to register to vote for the upcoming November 5th election. You have to be registered on that day. So get a registration form, fill it out, have somebody help you with it, and then vote. Get educated on the issues that affect your community, on the candidates that are running in your area, and know that they have their hand on your pocketbook. They will determine how your community is going to live. So vote for the right person that is going to represent you as a community. And don't forget, October 7th, last day to register, November 5th at the polls. And one thing that Helen said that is very important, you can vote absentee. You can call right now the Secretary of State's office. Stop by today, get a ballot, an absentee ballot. And you can vote on absentee ballot without having to present or submit any voter ID. So if that works for you, don't let not having an ID stop you from voting. You can still vote. That's the good news. So we can mitigate this. We have laws in our state that try to suppress the vote, but we can mitigate them and we can make it work. Thank you so much for being here, and I just encourage you, I don't care if it rains, storms, sleets, hails, whatever. we're going to be out there registering voters today. And thank you so much.
I'd like to bring up Senator Nan Orrock.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm very proud to be with you today as a senator from the 36th District here in Atlanta and to stand with dozens of organizations and people who are resolved that we're going to turn out a Georgia vote in this election and every election yet to come. The right to vote, universal suffrage, is a bedrock tenet of democracy. If we don't have and cherish and use the right to vote, we have given up our rights as citizens to have our say. Right here in this state capitol, in 2005, one of the first draconian voter suppression laws was passed. It was the state of Georgia. Many of us walked out of the chamber. We did everything we could to stop it because we knew the impact would be to take away the access to the ballot for Georgians. That proved to be the case. Mayor Shirley Franklin's mother was unable to get voter identification because she didn't quite match all the little draconian rules that they had put in. So we found out early in Georgia what voter suppression is all about. And that really arms us and urges us forward to get out here very broadly, educate people about their right to vote, about how to get registered, about how to do an absentee ballot, about when the elections are coming, and how to get informed and be an informed voter. These groups have come together today and throughout the year to do exactly that. We expect to see increased turnout in Georgia. The groups that you see before you have already experienced great success in identifying unregistered people, getting them involved, getting them voting, getting the ballots to them, getting them to the ballot box, in a large, broad civic effort to build the civic participation of Georgians, bringing us all to the ballot box. November 5th is very near. We will be across the city today and around the state at grocery stores, hospitals, community centers, anywhere people are gathered, at the public transit stations of MARTA. We will be urging people, step up, step out, register yourself, and be ready to vote November 5th right here in the state of Georgia, and elections next year and the year beyond. This is the only way that our voices will be heard, and we are very, very committed to spreading the word today. Don't stay at home. Don't sit on the couch. Get up, get out, get in the mix. Citizens unite and move forward. That's how we'll have a Georgia we can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'd like to bring up Wes Sanders, field organizer for Georgia Equality.
Good morning. I'm always so proud to follow Senator Orrock. No pressure, right? My name is Wes Sanders, and I'm a field organizer with Georgia Equality, and I'm here today because I want to make sure we take some time to focus on the importance of the youth vote and our inclusion in this process. Registering and engaging youth voters is a critical issue for us here in Georgia. Not only can we generate a generation of committed voters through this process, but poll after poll has clearly shown that our generation has a difference of opinion on numerous policy issues than those that came before us. And if my generation is to have our views respected, we must have access to the ballot. That's the best way that we can elect leaders who will listen and understand our views. Time after time in Georgia, we see youth turning out to vote in off-year elections at 15%. In municipal elections like the one coming up, we turn out at as low as 5%. Those numbers are unacceptable to me and should be unacceptable to every person who values their right to vote. Ensuring youth involvement in voting and public engagement is key to the success of our nation and surely our state. As we recognize National Voter Registration Day and in an effort to expand access to the ballot, please keep today's young people in mind. We may be young today, but we are the elected officials of tomorrow, and our voice is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. I'd like to bring up Ed DuBose of the NAACP.
Good morning. I stand proud with the organizations assembled here. I'm Edward DeBoe, State President of the Georgia State Conference of the NAACP and a member of the National Board of Directors. I'm excited to stand on this National Voter Registration Day. My youngest grandson is 2 years old, and I looked him in his eyes and I thought about all of the voter suppression that's going on. I wondered, will my youngest grandson have to deal with how many bubbles are in a bar of soap? How many jelly beans are in the jar? We must register to vote. We must stand strong against any kind of voter suppression. We must empower people to understand your vote is your voice. Your vote is your power. With your vote, you can accomplish anything. The one thing that the founders did, many things that were correct, but this one thing, they gave each one of us an opportunity to speak loud and clear with our voice. We must never allow that right to be taken back again. And so as I stand here gathered with the organizations, I'm so proud. I'm so proud to drive up in the rain, to be out there in inclement weather, because we understand that whether the sun is shining or it's snow out, that we still have to press our way forward to make a difference with our voice. Georgia is in position right now, as we speak, to either go back or go forward. We dare say that as we stand together, we will continue to go forward. November the 5th is a critical election, but there's also a runoff in Macon, Georgia right now. Even as we speak, we're down there fighting real hard even for the right for people to speak loud and clear with one voice. Thank you all for having me with you.
Thank you. I'd like to bring up Amrita Regney from the Gwinnett League of Women Voters.
Thank you. Good morning. Buenos dias. It's a pleasure to represent the League of Women Voters of Gwinnett County here today, and also be able to speak, amidst all these outstanding women who've dedicated so much of their time and effort on voter issues. What I find very interesting when we talk about facts is, Georgia, the 19th Amendment was passed in 1920, but the state of Georgia ratified 19th Amendment after 51 years. That was in 1971. That shows how much work we as a team have still left to do. And with that in mind, we have several events planned in Gwinnett County. One of the things I always seem to hear is, the legislature, the face of the legislature is not changing. And what can we do about it? Voters are really the catalyst for change. So if we want to see the faces of the legislature change and the legislation change, I think we need to go and rally and start building our voter base. Keeping that in mind, we have several events planned in Gwinnett County, and one of the events we have today is with Galileo, Georgia Association of Latin Elected Officials. And we also work with several other groups in Gwinnett County, NAACP, as well as the Ebony Society. So we hope that we have a very good drive today, and we encourage our voters to go out there and make the change. And also with that process, we hope to see the changing face of our legislature too. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. I'd like to bring up Stacy Hopkins, who's a field organizer for the Georgia Rural Urban Summit, and we have one speaker after that.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm very glad to stand here today representing Georgia Rural Urban Summit, which is one of the groups that I work for. And I know all of these people from working, doing advocacy, and we do this year-round. For us, voter registration is not just a one-day event. This is what we do. Becoming involved in civic engagement and voter registration is very important. Time and time again, I hear people say the system doesn't work. The first question I ask them is, do they vote? If you say you don't vote, then of course the system will not work for you. You're not engaged in it. You're not realizing your power. When I was a young girl, one of the things I couldn't wait to do when I was 18 was get my driver's license and get my voter registration card, because that meant to me I was grown. Amen. I got my card, and the first thing I did that first November was I went in that voting booth. And all the memories of going to vote with my parents came back, because I was always fascinated with that booth with all of the levers and things. And I asked my mother once, Mommy, what does that do? What does this machine do? She told me, when no one else hears your voice, they will hear your voice here. And that's something that stayed with me all of my life, and why I feel that voter registration is so important. When we look around what's going on in the state of Georgia and in Atlanta, when we look around and see voter suppression, stand your ground laws, not having Medicare expansion, when we say these voices don't represent us, this is why, because we have not gone out and done the necessary things to do. Midterm elections, off-year elections are just as important, and every year is election year. This is why this day is so important, to get the word out. Those who've had a criminal record, they need to know that they can vote once they have served their time, done their probation, and paid any restitution back. Those who are homeless need to know that they can vote. There are so many segments of our society who are disenfranchised, who feel they cannot be a part of the process, and we're here to tell them, to show them how they can get engaged, how they can realize their power, and how they can have their voices heard. So I'm proud to stand with my brothers and sisters behind me today. I'm doing 2 drives, and I hope I don't have a psychotic episode before it's over. But I'm very happy to do this, and as the wife of a postal worker, you know their motto, let no rain, shine, sleet, or snow. So we're going out there, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacey. And to end with a powerhouse, I'd like to bring up Deborah Scott, the Executive Director of Georgia Stand Up.
So it's all been said. So the one thing I want to say is just, we have to take 5 people and register them to vote today. 5 people. If everyone on the sound of our voices will take 5 people today and get them registered to vote, change their address, and make sure they get engaged with the process. It's about voter registration, education, but it's really about getting out to vote. Voter suppression is real. It's 2013. We just celebrated the March on Washington 50 years later, and we're still fighting the same battles. It's time to get out and register to vote, get out and vote, get educated. And this is a beautiful coalition behind us right here. Black, white, brown, everybody is in the house. But we need you, if you can hear our voice, we need you to get 5 people in your family registered to vote today. Stand up and vote.
Yeah.